Hi everyone, this is the case for the Challenger Shuttle Disaster by Guild 1. Events and facts. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Orbiter Challenger was launched to complete various missions in space. Disastrously, 73 seconds into the flight, the space shuttle broke apart, killing all 7 crew members, consisting of 5 NASA astronauts and 2 payload specialists. Within weeks, an investigation showed that the explosion was caused by the cold weather of the launch day that reduced the resiliency of the O-rings in the spacecraft. The failure on the O-ring seal caused a breach in the solid rocket booster joint, which allowed pressurized gas from the rocket's motor to reach the outside and leak into the fuel tank. The rings were not able to reseal properly, eventually leading to an explosion from the fuel tank. The launch was rescheduled a couple of times before the launch on January 28th. This caused NASA to rush the launch on the Challenger rocket.
So, some ethical issues concerning the Challenger. The investigation led to the findings that NASA organization culture and decision-making teams were the key contributors to accidents, as the agencies was violating their own safety rules. One of the contributing factors for this disaster was that NASA was being rushed by political pressures, as at the time, the US and the USSR were trying to beat each other to get satellites, rockets, and people to space first. This raised a big ethical issue because the US had put achievements of being the first over safety of 7 astronauts. Concerns were raised about the possible O-ring failure for the last 2 years, even the night before the crash. Engineers had warned their superiors about this and held a meeting on the effects of the cold weather on the boosters. However, NASA had very ambitious goals with limited resources. As a result, not enough resources were put into the quality control, allowing a flaw like this to be ignored. Even with the concerns, the management could not find a valid proof, so they made the executive decision saying that they were still going to launch. This raises an ethical issue because it is the engineer's job to decide what is and what is not going to work, and for the management to deny their decisions raises a major concern. Bob Ebeling, Bob Jolisi, and 3 other engineers tried to warn NASA about the danger of the launch and tried to get to the launch to stop, but they were overruled by higher officials.
Tests were done, and data showed that the rubber seal of the booster rockets wouldn't properly work in cold weather. To make it worse, the day of the launch was the coldest launch ever. Ebeling suggested waiting for a weather change and rescheduling the launch. Multiple NASA officials and Thiokol managers could have listened to Ebeling and chosen another date and postponed the launch. Rather than having strict protocols and following correct measures for success, NASA went on with the mission, even when they had clear warning of these consequences. Because of this, something that finally cost NASA loss, as well as the loss of 7 lives over a little mistake, could have been easily avoided.
NASA officials were chosen as they could have prevented this catastrophe. This is an ethical decision because the decision involved weighing potential for loss of life with the importance of the launch due to pressures. Dilemma. They can proceed with the launch without making sure everything is safe, causing lives to be possibly lost, or they can stop the launch but get scolded from higher ups. Responsibility of NASA to get the shuttle launched, the responsibility of NASA to avoid rocket destruction/failure, responsibility to the crew to prioritize their safety, and the responsibility to the president to make a launch a success on an important day. They can postpone the launch to a warmer day, but face backlash from higher ups, but also making sure everything is safe according to the data. Do a final test with the shuttle in the cold temperature to make sure everything is safe before sending in the astronauts.
So analyzing the alternate options, so using deontology under the circumstances, they should have postponed the date to a safer time to keep the crew safe, and it's the rights of the astronauts and not just trying to rush the mission and not think about the serious consequences in the long run. Following the set of rules given by superiors, the launch must also happen on the day following another deontology. Using utilitarianism, we would postpone the launch to a warmer date, as this allows the 7 lives of the astronauts to be saved. And making the shuttle launch without any proper evidence and proof of safety would not benefit anyone, as it may cause a disaster. Even if the launch was successful, the cons would outweigh the pros at the beginning. And also, using utilitarianism, the launch cannot be completely called off, as it will leave the public to be unhappy, which does not create a lot of benefits for a lot of people. And using virtue ethics, people involved in the decision to launch the shuttle can be declared as unvirtuous because they prioritize the launch over the lives of the 7 astronauts. And also, using virtue ethics, it is virtuous to call off the launch completely to eliminate the chances of the death of the astronauts.
So our preferred option would be to postpone the launch to another day, preferably on a warmer day, and also have a lot more tests done on the space shuttle. We would also want to improve communication between the managers and the engineers, so that the engineers will be listened to before assuming that everything's working. This is the best option, following utilitarian theory and virtue ethics, as this choice will ensure safety for everyone and prevent unnecessary loss.
So these are our reference lists. Thank you for listening.